What if I told you the most reliable insurance policy for your health and security isn't sitting in a bank account or a bottle of high-tech supplements, but was written thousands of years ago in the most ancient texts of human history? Today, I'm revealing 10 sacred food-producing trees that have sustained human life for millennia, living legacies that can survive for up to 300 years. The reality in 2026 is sobering. In places like Spain, while people now live to an average of 84, reports show many spend their final 12 years trapped in joint pain, fatigue, and a loss of mobility. That is an unacceptable price to pay for ignoring the wisdom of the earth. Pay close attention, particularly to tree number 7, a survival specialist that turns scorched earth into liquid gold for your health. It's time to stop wasting money on industrial products that only mask symptoms. Let's explore how your backyard can become your private clinic and a fortress of nutrition for generations to come. The reason I believe in this vision is because a few of these trees prove the concept early. Mulberry is a prime example. You almost never see them in supermarkets because the fruit is too delicate for shipping, bruising and collapsing almost instantly. This makes it precious for a home garden. A mature mulberry can drop 50 to 80 pounds of berries in a season, and it often starts doing useful work within 3 to 5 years. That's fast in tree terms. You plant it, then life gets noisy, and before long there's a summer when you walk outside and realize the tree has crossed over from hopeful idea to actual food. Not symbolic food, not decorative food, real food. Enough of it that you start thinking differently about what one tree can mean. What I love about mulberry, though, is that it doesn't act fussy about being useful. Poor soil, drought, a little neglect, it tends to push through. And once you start looking into how people have used it beyond fresh eating, the tree gets even more interesting. Dried mulberries have carried real weight as winter food in parts of Central Asia, and the protein content is unusually high for a fruit. So what starts as a sweet backyard berry ends up feeling more serious than that, more durable. Fig has a different mood altogether. Mulberry feels like proof. Fig feels like memory. It has that old yard energy to it, the kind of tree you notice late, almost by accident, and then suddenly it's everywhere. A bowl on the table. Fruit split open in the heat. A few left out to dry. A mature fig can give you 100 to 200 pounds of fruit a year, and it does that in places where more delicate trees start complaining. Heat, thin soil, dry stretches, it keeps going. There's something about a fig tree that makes abundance feel old rather than flashy, less like a miracle and more like a habit someone kept alive. And then there's the part that really matters if you're trying to think beyond the moment. Fresh figs are wonderful, but dried figs are where the tree starts showing its backbone. They concentrate into something dense and storable, something you can picture in a jar, in a pantry, in the back of your mind as a quiet reserve. I've heard dried figs described as nature's original granola bar, and that comparison holds up better the more you look at the numbers. Around 1,200 calories per pound puts them firmly in the category of food that can help carry a family through leaner months instead of just brightening an afternoon. The other gift fig gives you is emotional. It starts early, often in 2 to 3 years, and that matters more than people admit. When you're trying to build anything long-term, an early success keeps you from losing faith before the deeper investments start paying off. Then, almost without noticing it, the conversation changes. Because sweetness is one thing, comfort is one thing. But if you keep following the logic of a food-producing yard all the way through, sooner or later you end up thinking about fat, protein, shelf life, and calories that can actually sit with you. That's where hazelnut begins to matter. Hazelnut is one of the first trees on this list that makes the math feel a little more serious. A pound of hazelnuts carries around 2,800 calories. A mature planting giving you around 30 pounds means you're looking at roughly 84,000 calories in a year. And I know numbers by themselves can slide right past the ear, so I try to translate them into something more concrete. That's the kind of food value that changes the role of a plant. It stops being a treat, it starts becoming a reserve. The shell is part of the genius. Leave the nuts in shell, and they can remain stable for over a year without refrigeration. That kind of storage matters because it takes pressure off everything else. You're not forced into immediate use. You're not trapped in a race against spoilage. You're building a calorie bank that renews itself. People knew that long before we started using phrases like food security. Hazelnuts helped communities through grain failures and hard winters, precisely because fats are difficult to replace when times get rough. Fruit gives you sweetness. Leafy crops give you freshness. But dense, stable fats? That's a harder problem. Hazelnut solves part of it quietly. It also happens to be one of the earlier nut producers, often giving you something within 3 to 4 years. You usually want 2 varieties so pollination works in your favor, but honestly that feels less like a hassle and more like a reminder that long-term planting asks for a little seriousness. Not complexity, just seriousness, and maybe that's the shift underneath all of this. A lot of gardening advice is really about quick satisfaction, fast growth, fast color, fast harvest, something to make the week feel productive. There's nothing wrong with that, but it isn't the whole picture. Because some things in a yard are meant to do more than cheer you up for a season. Some things are meant to hold weight. Apple is a perfect example. It's so familiar that most people stop seeing it clearly. Apples have become ordinary in the modern imagination. And because of that, we forget how much real work they've done for people in cold climates. A mature apple tree can produce 200 to 400 pounds of fruit a year. 4 solid trees can put you close to 800 pounds. Once you start thinking in those terms, apple stops looking like a lunchbox fruit and starts looking like infrastructure. The real strength of apple isn't just the harvest itself. It's what you can do with that harvest. Good storage varieties can hold for 3 to 6 months in cool, dark conditions. Dry them and they last even longer. Ferment them into cider, and the timeline stretches further still. That versatility is what gave apples such a deep place in older households. They bridged seasons. They kept showing up after the fresh garden had gone quiet. Of course, they make you wait. 6 to 10 years to full production is normal. And in many cases you need a second variety nearby for pollination. But I almost trust apple more because of that. It doesn't flatter impatience. It simply offers a dependable return if you are willing to think like someone building a system rather than chasing a mood. Persimmon solves a different problem, and I've always found the timing especially beautiful. A lot of food arrives when the whole world is generous. Persimmon arrives when the world is beginning to pull back. Late autumn, early winter, beds slowing down, leaves already dropped. And then there's this tree still holding bright fruit sometimes even after the first snow. A mature persimmon can produce somewhere around 150 to 300 pounds, which is already impressive. But volume is only half the story. What matters is when that sweetness arrives. The fruit is rich in natural sugars, and when you dry it, something almost magical happens. A pale bloom forms on the outside. The texture turns chewy and concentrated, almost like a date, and it can keep for over a year without additives. That is not trivial. That is a tree handing you preserved energy, right when most gardens are running out of things to say. There's a reason dried persimmons traveled with soldiers and travelers in earlier times. Lightweight, stable, easy to carry, quick energy when the weather was turning against you. Once you know that, persimmon stops being just a pretty fruit hanging in cold weather. It becomes a tree with timing on its side. And then we get to chestnut, where the whole idea turns heavier. Chestnut isn't really a snack tree, even though people often think of it that way. It belongs to a different category. For centuries, it was known as the bread tree across parts of Europe and Asia because it provided something few trees can provide at scale. Starch, not just richness, not just sweetness, but filling, grain-like food value. A mature chestnut can yield 200 to 400 pounds of nuts. Roast them if you like, boil them if you like. But the real shift happens when you stop picturing holiday chestnuts and start picturing flour. Chestnut flour stores for months, and that one fact changes the meaning of the tree. It turns a seasonal harvest into something closer to a staple. That's why chestnut forests mattered so much in mountain communities where wheat struggled. When grain failed, chestnut could still carry people. And I think it helps to sit with that for a second. Because history is full of plants that were treasured not because they were charming, but because they worked under pressure. Chestnut belongs in that category. 5 to 7 years before production becomes meaningful is a real wait. I wouldn't soften that. But I also wouldn't ignore what you get back in exchange. A tree that can feed people in one of the most practical ways a tree can feed them. And somewhere around this point, another question tends to come up. Why think so far ahead at all? Why worry about what a tree might do in 20 years when life right now already feels full enough, unstable enough, expensive enough? I think the answer is that planting long-term changes what a piece of land means. Even a small yard feels different when part of it is no longer organized around convenience alone. When one corner of it is quietly working on future food instead of just present beauty, the whole place starts carrying a little more dignity, a little more usefulness, a little more memory, even before the years have passed. And that brings me to one of the trees people often misread. Carob doesn't impress everyone at first glance. I understand that. It doesn't have the romance of fig, and it doesn't have the familiar prestige of walnut. But the more you understand what it does in heat and drought, the harder it becomes to dismiss. A mature carob can produce 200 to 400 pounds of sweet pods in conditions that would wear out many fruit trees. Rocky soil, long dry spells, hot air that seems to flatten everything else. Carob keeps going, and what makes it especially interesting is that the pods are naturally low in moisture. That means they store beautifully. 2 to 3 years in a cool, dry place without much fuss. That kind of storage changes everything. Because now you're no longer talking about a tree that happens to taste good. You're talking about a tree that can stand in a difficult climate, produce something sweet and calorie-dense, and then hold that value over time without asking for complicated preservation. The pods are roughly half natural sugar. They've been used as emergency food in hard times because they resist spoilage so well. Once you really see that, carob stops feeling quirky. It starts feeling wise. I also think there's something humbling about a tree like that. It makes you admit that usefulness and glamour are not always the same thing. 6 to 8 years to establish is not quick. Nobody plants carob for instant gratification. But if you're living in a place where drought keeps becoming part of the conversation, or you simply want one tree in the landscape that seems completely unbothered by heat, carob starts looking less optional. After that, the whole list begins to tilt toward inheritance. Walnut carries that feeling immediately. A mature walnut can yield 50 to 80 pounds of nuts a year, which works out to something like 150,000 to 240,000 calories. That's an extraordinary amount of food value for one tree, especially when you remember what category it belongs to. Fats, protein, long-haul nourishment, the parts of a self-reliant diet that are always harder to secure gracefully. The shell does its part here too. Walnuts can stay fresh for over a year without refrigeration, and that means the tree helps not only with production, but with stability. Then there's the timber, which is why walnut has always felt like more than a food tree to me. It feeds in one generation and may still hold material value in the next. That is about as close as a tree gets to acting like an inheritance on purpose. And yes, it asks for patience. 6 to 10 years before it really starts producing. A lifespan that can stretch to 150 or 200 years. Walnut does not rush to prove itself. But maybe that's part of why it feels so substantial. It rewards seriousness more than enthusiasm. Pecan belongs in that same long-view world, though it lands with a slightly different kind of abundance. A big, mature pecan tree can produce 200 to 400 pounds of nuts a year. That alone is enough to change how you think about a backyard. Add in the healthy fats, the protein, the thick shells that protect the nuts for up to 2 years, and the tree starts looking less like seasonal bounty and more like deep-stored energy. There's old wisdom wrapped around pecan, too. People carried it because it made sense to carry. Lightweight enough to transport, dense enough to matter. That's always a revealing test for food. What did people keep with them when they couldn't afford dead weight? Pecan passed that test. It does take 7 to 10 years before fruiting begins in earnest. Again, no pretending otherwise. But a tree that can live 200 to 300 years is not really asking to be judged by the clock of next season. It's asking to be judged by what it becomes once it's established. And then there is oak. Oak asks for the kind of patience that strips away all the romance and leaves only conviction. Because 20 to 30 years to peak production is not a poetic idea when you're standing in your own lifetime. It's long, properly long. Long enough that you have to decide whether you actually believe in planting beyond your immediate return or whether you only like the sound of it. But if you can accept that timescale, oak starts to feel almost unmatched. A mature oak can drop 200 to 1,000 pounds of acorns in a good year. Leach out the tannins, and those acorns become flour, porridge, even a coffee substitute. More importantly, the tree itself was built to stay. Storms, pests, drought, neglect, time. Oak keeps standing, and once it's there, it asks for very little hovering compared with more delicate orchard trees. So in the end, oak is not just about food, it's about trust. A tree that can live 200 to 500 years changes the emotional scale of planting. It no longer feels like a project. It feels like placing something steady into the future and walking away with the strange comfort of knowing it may still be doing its job long after your part in the story is over. I think that's why this kind of planting stays with me. Not because it promises perfection. Not because it makes hard times disappear. Just because it offers another way to think about land and time and usefulness. Mulberry and fig show you early that a yard can be more generous than the store. Hazelnut and walnut solve the kind of energy problem people too often ignore until it matters. Apple and persimmon stretch nourishment deeper into the year. Chestnut and oak remind you that some of the most important food trees in history were never about novelty in the first place. And carob, maybe more than any of them, teaches you not to underestimate the trees that were built for harsher futures. The good news is, nobody needs an orchard to begin. One mulberry can change the way you think about summer fruit. One persimmon can change what late autumn looks like in your yard. A pair of hazelnuts can start becoming a pantry. One chestnut can teach you what a staple tree really is. And one oak, if you have the room and the patience, can change your relationship to time. Maybe that's the real shift underneath all of this, moving a little farther away from the mindset of a consumer and a little closer to the mindset of a steward. Asking a little less often, what can I buy this week? And a little more often, what can I plant now that will keep answering the same need for years? So if I were saying all of this to a friend, I think I'd leave it there. Not with a slogan, just with a question. What would it mean to plant one tree this year that your family might still be grateful for 100 years from now?